Welcome back to another transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from the subreddit PastorArrested, posted by user Leeming. The post is a linked post titled Kentucky, worship leader associated with Ken Ham's Creation Museum confesses to sexually abusing teen. It's linked below to a Julie Roy's article. As of recording, this has 746 upvotes and over 36 comments. I want to highlight a particular comment before I go into the article. User significant-prior-27 wrote, Mark Loy, Answers in Genesis CCO, replied, quote, the ministry does not generally comment on personnel matters, but we can confirm that this person is no longer with us. In fact, his departure occurred before we became aware of the investigation against him, end quote. So what he's saying is that they knew and quietly dismissed him instead of calling the cops. User TurdFergusonPDX responded saying, bingo, pointing hand emoji. Now, maybe it'll come out during the trial, maybe it won't. At this point, it's alleged, unless we have someone from Answers in Genesis actually confirming it. However, a statement like that does, I would clarify with a usually can mean that the leadership knew about it and dismissed him so that they wouldn't legally be liable. Churches do it. The Wells does it. LCMS does it. It's no surprise here that Answers in Genesis would do that. Moving on to the Roy's report, titled Worship Leader Associated with Creation Museum Confesses to Sexually Abusing Teen, Sheriff Says. Written by Sheila Stogstill. Originally posted on January 10th, 2025. Below the title is an image of the subject in question in prison black and gray, with the caption below reading, Kentucky worship leader Michael Howard has been arrested after confessing to sexually abusing a teenager for several years. Photo, Boone County Sheriff's Office. A Kentucky worship leader associated with Ken Ham's Creation Museum in northern Kentucky is in jail after confessing to sexually abusing a teenager for several years, the Boone County Sheriff's Office said, linked here. Michael Howard, 36, is charged with 40 counts first-degree sexual abuse and 40 counts of third-degree sodomy, according to the Sheriff's Office. He remains held in the Boone County Jail on $250,000 bail. Howard, quote, made admissions regarding his, quote, 3 to 4 year, end quote, relationship, end overall, quote, the Sheriff's Office said. He is accused of abusing the male for 4 years, beginning in 2019 when the alleged victim was 15 years old and worked for Howard. The Sheriff's Office said that's when Howard began sending the then-teenager sexual messages. Howard is listed on social media as part of True Song, the resident artist of the Creation Museum and Ark Encounter, founded by Answers in Genesis CEO Ken Ham. The Roy's report, parentheses TRR, in parentheses, reached out to Answers in Genesis for comment about Howard. Below that, we see an image of the subject in question, this time sitting at a piano with a microphone in front of his face. Below it, reading the caption, in a video posted in October 2023, worship leader Michael Howard of True Song performs at the CCM studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Parentheses, video screen grab, end parentheses. Continuing on. Mark Loy, Answers in Genesis CCO, replied, quote, the ministry does not generally comment on personnel matters, but we can confirm that this person is no longer with us. In fact, his departure occurred before we became aware of the investigation against him, end quote. Loy continued, quote, to respect the privacy of those involved and because this is a matter currently under investigation, we are not in a position to comment further, other than to ask for prayers for all the individuals involved, especially the possible victims, end quote. Side note, it doesn't surprise me that they're going with such a limp-wristed response like this. They don't want the liability, and they especially hope that, allegedly, and in my less than humble opinion, they probably hope that the sheriff's office investigation does not point back to them finding out about these allegations and then quietly dismissing him. If I had to guess, they probably found out, dismissed him, and they're trying to keep their employees silent about this so that they don't potentially have any leads in investigation coming back to them, because then they would look bad. Especially with all the families that visit the Ark Encounter and Creation Museum year after year. Continuing on, we see a photo of True Song performing before an auditorium with a caption, "In August 2022, Christian music group True Song performs in the Answers Center at Ark Encounter in Williamstown, Kentucky." Parentheses, photo, Facebook, in parentheses. The sheriff's office said Howard and the victim also attended the same church. Social media sites show Howard attended Florence Baptist Temple, linked here, in Burlington, Kentucky, where he served on the worship team. When contacted and asked if Howard was still affiliated with the church's worship team, a church official declined to comment. However, Howard's name has been removed from the church's website. Here ends the article. Going to Facebook for the official statement, we see from the Boone County Sheriff for immediate release on January 3rd, 2025. And listed as their contact, Major Philip Rigel, spokesman, Public Information Services. We read, on December 27th, 2024, the Boone County Sheriff's Office received a report of sexual abuse. The victim, a minor when the abuse began, reported to detectives that he had been sexually abused and sodomized for many years by an adult male suspect. The victim identified the suspect as 36-year-old Michael Howard of Burlington and reported that he had started working for him in the fall of 2019. The following spring, Howard began sending messages of a sexual nature to the then 15-year-old victim. That same year, the sexual abuse and sodomy began and continued on multiple occasions over the next 4, parentheses, the number 4, in parentheses, years. In addition to the victim working for Howard, detectives learned that they were members of the same church. Detectives corroborated the victim's statement after conducting additional interviews and learned that Howard made admissions regarding his, quote, 3 to 4 year, end quote, relationship. Michael Howard was arrested on January 2nd, 2025, and is charged with sexual abuse first degree, parentheses, 40 counts, end parentheses, and sodomy third degree, parentheses, 40 counts, end parentheses. He remains lodged at the Boone County Jail and is currently held on a $250,000 bond. Here we have at the bottom a star saying, charges in a criminal complaint are accusations only. It is the government's burden to prove the allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. Here ends the release. And here, on Ministry Watch, we get more information. Down about halfway through the article, it reread, the sheriff's office also noted that Howard and the boy attended the same church. A recently scrubbed profile, linked here, of Howard on the website of Florence Baptist Temple indicated he was a member since 2009 and the worship leader since 2022. Then we get to the Answers in Genesis official statement by Mark Loy. And then below that we read, in another deleted profile, the Ark Encounter website, linked here, described Howard as a Hebron, Kentucky native with a wife and 2 children. The same page invites visitors of the life-size Noah's Ark replica to enjoy the, quote, True Song experience, end quote. Quote, True Song is one of Christian music's most exciting groups, and since forming in 2022, they have served as a resident artist band at the Ark Encounter and Creation Museum, end quote, the website says. Quote, with genuine hearts for God, True Song makes uplifting music that proclaims truth to people of all ages. With cutting-edge technology in our state-of-the-art venues, this is a worship experience you won't forget. End quote. In April 2023, True Song was signed by New Day Records under the umbrella of Daywin Music Group, linked here. Their debut album, Tell Someone, was nominated for the 2024 Inspirational Album of the Year by the GMA Dove Awards, which Howard and fellow band members attended in October, linked here. According to the sheriff's statement, detectives corroborated the accusations against Howard through interviews, including the suspect's own, quote, admissions regarding his, quote, 3 to 4 year, end quote, relationship. And overall, quote. Court documents obtained by the Lexington Herald Leader, linked here, say Howard was a longtime family friend and that he groomed the boy by sending explicit messages via the photo-sharing app Snapchat. The documents also allege that after the boy turned 18, Howard told him that if their sexual relationship was discovered, he should tell people it began while he was a legal adult. Howard was charged with 40 counts of first-degree sexual abuse and 40 counts of third-degree sodomy and held at Boone County Jail on $250,000 bond. Here ends the article. Again, it doesn't surprise me that this happened, and it doesn't surprise me that Answers in Genesis could potentially be covering up how much they knew about this. As always, the accused is innocent until proven guilty. However, myself, and I'm sure many others, are going to be keeping an eye on this case to see what the investigation turns up and just how many people knew about this exploitation. And I certainly hope that the wife and children are safe from him and that plans are being made to keep his children safe from him. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching/listening, and I will see you in the next one.